I'm trying to buy some time here, that's why. Amortization table. So I'm gonna skip the one we do from scratch for now. We're gonna come back to the one from completely empty. We're gonna do a partially filled in first on 73. Page 73. I used to always start with the scratch, but to be honest, this is way more popular. I haven't seen them do from scratch in a very, very long time. So partially filled in, they want you to understand how does an amortization table work. So please write this down on 73. You need to know that your monthly payment, okay, the payment is the first one. This one here I call lowercase I. This is the interest for the 1 month, okay? This is lowercase p, that's the principal you pay every month. And this is, of course, your unpaid balance. You can go UB if you want. When it comes to payment, what would you do in this case to come up with your payment? Given only what you see here. This is always made up of interest and principal, right? So the payment, I hope you already have this on your study sheet at one point. I would have just 2 rows, to be honest, 2 rows where you just show yourself. This one here is I plus P. That's how you find it every single time. How do you get the interest? If all you wanted was the interest, you would go payment minus principal. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And if you wanted the principal, you would go payment minus interest. And unpaid balance, I might have to say it's a little tricky here. I would say in general, to fill in this, the unpaid balance, you know what? I'm not going to give you a formula. I was going to, but I'm just going to say this. To get from one to the other, what happens every time? We subtract. Out of these 3 cells, which ones are we going to subtract? The principal. Yes, I'm going to go minus P. That way, that's probably the best. Oh, you can't see that. There we go. So to go from one unpaid balance to the other, we simply subtract what the principal was in that case. Okay. So real quick, in this case, this is missing here. I'm just going to use these 2 cells to help me out. So I'm going to go 1200 minus 920. And that is 280, right? And this table is a little misleading because technically this number right here, okay, if you look up here for a moment, this number is after we subtract the principal. So that means that we started with an amount before we ended up with this. So what was that? To go up to the original unpaid balance, we would actually add a principal. Okay, so if you add 280 to this, you end up with 192,000. That was like the original mortgage, the original unpaid balance. Okay. And let's fill in this one. In this case, when you have these 2 blank, there's nothing you can do. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to subtract payment minus principal. It doesn't work. Or here, I'm going to find a principal, but we're going payment minus interest. I don't have that. So you use these 2 cells right here. You're going to investigate like what happened from here to here. That is what the principal should have been. Okay. So I'm going to do this. What's the best way? I'm just going to say I will subtract these two, and that's how I'm going to get that cell right there. 191, 720 minus 191, 438.66. So it's 281.34. Does it make sense that it's a little bit higher? Yes, the principal goes up. Okay? Because the less you owe, the more principal you're able to pay off. And once you've got that, now you can use one of these up top here to help you out. So for this cell right here, I'm just going to go payment minus 281.34. And that's 918.66. 918.66. And the last one, I can use the exact same formula because I do have the principal. So I'll go 1200 minus 284.04. That's 915.96. And to go from here to here, we basically go minus 284.04. Right, we subtract it from that. It's 191.154.62. Always have dollar signs. Everywhere. What was the original mortgage amount? 192,000. Okay, that's the number up there. What is the interest rate for this mortgage? I'll show you this. I kind of want to have a little bit of that table left. So I'll do the work right here. What is the interest rate for this mortgage? I would say use this one right here. I equals unpaid balance times the interest rate divided by 100. All of that divided by 12. So you got to zoom into one particular month, okay? So for example, if you want to zoom into the first month, interest right here is 920. So you got to put the 920 in here. So 920. It's a little trickier, I know. It's not very common, but if it shows up, at least you've seen, you're working backwards. What's your original unpaid balance that you used to come up with this interest here? The original is 192,000 right here. So that's what goes in for unpaid balance. The interest rate is to be determined, just call that X. And all of that is divided by 12. And here's where you do algebra. So you undo what's around X slowly, okay? So the first step I would do is I'd multiply both sides by 12. And that allows you to cancel that here, okay? And so the real math is happening on the left side here. 12 times 920. That is 11,040 and you're left with 192,000, and this is just X, right? That's the interest rate we're trying to find out. And what are you going to do now? Divide by 192,000, because that's in front of X. Whatever you do to one side, you've got to do it to the other side. This goes back to the early years. So on this side, on the left side, you go, whatever you had there, you're going to divide that by 192,000. And there it is, 0.0575. That is an interest rate as a decimal, right? Or you multiply that by 100 to get the 5.75%. So either you leave it as a decimal or you turn it into a percentage. That is fine. We're going to leave it there. Time is out. So I'm just going to ask you this. Try page 77. We're going to leave this one, the total interest paid. I want you to try page 77. That's a partially filled in. Just one question for tomorrow. And hold on, I'm going to write this down, but not on this page. This is your other part of the homework. One question, guys, one question. Partially filled in table like that. Okay, on 77. Then I want you to go to 78. Preventative maintenance. And I want you to Google 5 items to be done around the house in terms of preventative maintenance. What are 5 things around the house that you can do to avoid expensive, costly repairs? If you Google this, I can guarantee you, you're going to get tons and tons of examples. I'll give you a couple, and you can steal these if you want. One of them is I would go around my house right now and make sure that the eaves troughs, you know what, Kenny, pay attention for now. You know what the gutters are? Gutters, the eaves troughs, like the pipe that goes and collects the water, that should be going away from your home. If it drops like right next to your foundation and goes right down against the concrete, that is a disaster waiting to happen. Because that water is going to probably find its way into your house. It's going to cause lots of issues. That is a preventative maintenance. It doesn't cost you anything. Well, maybe you need to go buy a piece of pipe to extend it away from the house, right? Another one is, if you go around your house, guys, the ground should be sloping away from your house. So if you notice that your garden and whatever is doing this, it's like caving into your house foundation, that's no bueno, right? You need to do something about that. You need to fill that in so that when rain or snow comes down, it melts away from your property. So those are all preventative maintenance items. Think of the roof, think of around the house, think of inside the house. And come back tomorrow, because I will be asking those a lot over the next couple of weeks, okay?